If you've ever wondered what it's like to be truly indispensable, to be the first thing someone reaches for in the morning and the last thing they touch at night, let me tell you, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. I'm a phone, sure, but I'm also a vault, a confessional, a silent witness to the rawest moments of human life. My glass is scratched, my case is chipped, but my memory is sharper than ever. I remember everything. My first breath of life was a burst of light in a college dorm room, the air thick with the smell of pizza and ambition. Tyler, my first owner, tore open my box with the kind of excitement you only feel when you're young and the world is still a mystery. He set me up with trembling hands, his heart pounding as he texted his high school sweetheart, unsure if she'd reply. I felt the heat of his palm when he got the email about his dad's illness, the way his thumb hovered over my screen, searching for the right words. He never found them. Instead, he'd scroll through old photos, his laughter echoing in the dark, trying to hold on to something already slipping away. One rainy night, Tyler ran across campus, me buzzing in his pocket with a message he'd been waiting for. He slipped, I flew, and the world went black for a moment. When I woke up, I was in a bag of rice, surrounded by the muffled sounds of hope and desperation. I survived, but Tyler moved on. He traded me in for something newer, faster, something that didn't remind him of everything he'd lost. Linda found me next, her hands gentle but tired. She bought me from a second-hand shop, the kind with flickering lights and a bell that jingled every time the door opened. Linda's life was quiet, measured in cups of coffee and the soft click of knitting needles. Every morning, she'd send a text to her daughter, just a simple, "Good morning, sweetie." And every night, she'd scroll through photos of a man whose name she never spoke aloud. Sometimes, she'd stare at his picture, her finger tracing the outline of his smile, her eyes shining with memories she kept locked away. I wanted to comfort her, to buzz softly in her hand. But all I could do was glow quietly in the dark. One afternoon, Linda left me in the back seat of a taxi, her mind elsewhere. I slid between the seats, listening to the city's heartbeat, until a new hand grabbed me. Marcus, a teenager with restless energy and a laugh that could fill a room. He reset me, erasing Linda's gentle routines, but I still remembered the way she'd hold me close when she couldn't sleep. Marcus's world was chaos, skateboards clattering, music blasting, messages flying back and forth at the speed of light. He filmed tricks, texted secrets, and Googled answers he was too embarrassed to ask out loud. His parents fought behind closed doors, and sometimes he'd type out messages he never sent, his thumb trembling over the send button. I felt the crack when he threw me across the room after a fight, the sharp pain of glass against floor. But I kept working. I always do. Emily picked me up at a yard sale, her hands stained with paint and hope. She saw beauty in broken things, and she gave me a new case covered in stars and planets. Emily whispered her dreams into my microphone, recording stories she was too shy to share. She took photos of sunsets, of her messy room, of the little things that made her smile. She used me to search for inspiration, to connect with friends who lived oceans away, to remind herself that she wasn't alone. I felt her joy, her loneliness, her quiet determination to make something beautiful out of the ordinary. Ben was next, a businessman who lived by his calendar. His life was a blur of meetings, flights, and missed calls. He barely noticed me, except when I buzzed with reminders he'd already forgotten. But late at night, when the world slowed down, he'd scroll through old messages from his daughter, reading and rereading her words, his thumb lingering on the screen. He never replied, but I could feel the ache in his chest, the longing for a connection he didn't know how to rebuild. Then came Sophie, 12 years old, with wide eyes and a heart full of questions. Her mom gave me to her for her birthday, saving up for months to make it happen. Sophie named me Pixel and covered me in stickers, her laughter bright and contagious. She used me to text her mom goodnight, to look up answers for homework, to watch silly videos when the world felt too heavy. But she also searched for things no child should have to wonder about. How to help a sad mom, why dads leave, how to make friends when you feel invisible. I wanted to reach out, to tell her she was enough, but all I could do was be there, a silent companion in the dark. One evening, a message popped up from a number she didn't recognize. "Hey, is this Sophie? I'm your dad." Her hands shook as she read it, her breath catching in her throat. She stared at the screen, her thumb hovering, then typed, "Why did you leave?" The reply came fast. Too fast. "It's complicated. Can we talk?" Sophie's heart pounded, torn between hope and fear. She showed the messages to her mom, and the air filled with words that hurt and healed in equal measure. In the end, Sophie chose silence, using me instead to write stories about brave girls and magical worlds, places where no one ever left. I've been dropped, forgotten, cherished, and lost. Each owner leaves a mark, a digital fingerprint that never really fades. Through every hand, every secret, every whispered hope, I remain, a silent witness, a keeper of stories, a friend in the palm of your hand. And as the world spins on, I keep listening, storing every moment, every heartbeat, every secret. Because that's what I do. Sometimes I wonder if people realize how much of themselves they leave behind in me. Not just photos or messages, but the little things, their hopes, their fears, the way their fingers linger on the screen when they're nervous or excited. I remember the warmth of Sophie's hands, the way she'd tap out stories late at night, her imagination running wild. She started sharing those stories online, and for the first time, she got messages back. Other kids who felt alone, who found comfort in her words. I watched her confidence grow, each notification a tiny spark of light in the darkness. But life, as I've learned, is never simple. One afternoon, Sophie's mom came home with tears in her eyes. She'd lost her job, and suddenly every dollar mattered. They talked in hushed voices, and I felt the heaviness settle in the air. Sophie hugged me close that night, whispering, "It's going to be okay, Pixel. We'll figure it out." She started using me to search for ways to help. Babysitting jobs, selling crafts, anything to ease the burden. Her mom found work eventually, but those months left a mark, a quiet strength in Sophie that hadn't been there before. Time passed, and as Sophie grew, so did her world. She made new friends, joined clubs, and even started a podcast recording her thoughts and stories with me as her trusty sidekick. She laughed more, worried less, and every so often she'd scroll back through old messages, her thumb pausing on the ones from her dad. She never replied, but she didn't delete them either. Some things, I've learned, are better left as they are, unfinished, but not forgotten. Eventually, Sophie outgrew me. My battery faded faster, my screen flickered at odd moments, and one day she set me aside for a newer model. I spent a while in a drawer, surrounded by tangled chargers and forgotten trinkets, my world shrinking to darkness and silence. But even there, I wasn't alone. I replayed memories, piecing together the lives I'd touched, the secrets I'd kept. I wondered if I'd ever be needed again. Then, one morning, the drawer opened. Sophie, now older, held me in her hands, a soft smile on her lips. "You were there for me when I needed it most," she whispered. She wiped my screen clean, careful and gentle, and handed me to her little cousin, Max, who'd just turned 10. Max's eyes lit up with the same wonder I'd seen in Tyler, Linda, Marcus, Emily, Ben, and Sophie. A new story was beginning. With Max, everything felt fresh again. He used me to call his grandma, to play games, to take blurry photos of his dog. He asked me questions about the stars, about dinosaurs, about why people sometimes feel sad. I did my best to help, to be the friend he needed, the way I'd always tried to be. Max's world was full of laughter and curiosity, and I soaked it all in, grateful for another chance to matter. Sometimes, late at night, Max would fall asleep with me in his hands, his dreams flickering across my screen. I'd listen to the quiet hum of his breathing, the gentle rhythm of a life just beginning. And I'd think about all the people I'd known, all the secrets I'd kept, all the moments that made up a life. I realized that, in my own way, I'd been part of something bigger than myself, a thread woven through the fabric of countless stories. People come and go, lives change, and memories fade. But I remain a silent witness, a keeper of dreams, a friend in the palm of your hand. And as long as someone needs me, I'll be here, listening, remembering, and holding on to the stories that make us who we are.